the Radio Forest Podcast.
Chris Jagger, how are you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm in Switzerland.
What are you doing there?
Well, I'm doing some shows. We're doing 9 shows in 10 days. This is my one day off.
How many of the new songs in the record are you getting into?
Well, we played just 2 last night, and we probably cocked up one of them. Hey, you won't believe this, but there was, Switzerland has quite a few expats. There was 2 Americans there who've been living in Switzerland for a long time. And this one woman, she said she was from Boise, Idaho.
What?
And she said, do you realize you've made me something that I haven't been for a long, long time? I said, well, what's that? She said, Homesick, the music we played.
That reminded her of back here?
Yep.
You know, this record's really fun. I was trying to think of a way to describe it, like blues or rock or country, and instead all I could come up with, it's fun. It's a fun, bopping record. I really like it a lot.
Cool. I'm hoping Americans will appreciate it because, a lot of stuff in Europe and in England is very much fashion-led. And I'm not a terribly fashionable kind of musician. I just, write tunes and play stuff that I like.
We're talking to Chris Jagger. Yes, that Jagger. Mixing Up the Medicine is the album we're talking about. But I'm also like halfway through your book talking to myself. And this is a common joke on the internet. I was prepared to be scared of quicksand, and as an adult, I find out that's not true. It's not an issue at all. But that actually was. You had a friend that died in quicksand?
Yeah, I was quite young. I mean, I used to have bad nightmares about quicksand.
Oh, my God.
But, it was a sand pit. I guess it was. Yeah, Jimmy Sinclair, I remember his name pretty well. I think we used to play football together. Not your football, but soccer.
I follow you. So speaking of football, Cristiano Ronaldo back at Man U in first place. Tottenham, what do you think this year? What's going to happen? What do you think about Cristiano being back?
I'm not a follower of Man U, I have to tell you. I'm a Tottenham fan.
Well, how's your team doing? I think you guys are like 6th or 7th?
Yeah. Well, I mean, professional sports has become a bit of a money-making, money-laundering business, isn't it? It's pretty shameful what's happened to it all.
All right, back to your book, Talking to Myself. You and your buddy John took like a weekend off from the boarding school to go visit your brother Mick, and who opens the door but 2 of the Beatles. That's super cool. Did you already know them at that point, or is that just your friend?
No, the story was, we were like schoolboys, and we went up, and I don't know if I stayed there. My brother had a very small apartment in a mews. And John, the doorbell went. And so my friend John Newbegin, he got up and answered the door. And there was it Ringo and John? I can't remember now. Paul, was it? He went, hello. And he said, oh, you better come in. I mean, it was a small world in a way in the 1960s. Everyone, I mean, those are the days you used to go around to someone's house without even telephoning. Just pop round. If they weren't in, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, nowadays, with everything, the conveniences you got, if you knock on someone's door, they're horrified. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you let me know?
How have you and your brother been doing with Charlie? So you had to have known him since your early teen years? Well,
that's what happens when you get older, isn't it? We're not immortal, are you? So I haven't seen Charlie. I mean, I tell you where the last time I had a really good talk to Charlie is I did a radio show on Alexis Corner, who was the kind of godfather of the blues in the UK. I'm going back a few years. And in fact, the interview's still on my website. Charlie gave me the most brilliant interview telling me about what it was like and some of the stories and the stuff, and he was so generous. And Mick gave me a great interview. And it was very revealing, and I was grateful for that time spent, and appreciative of his drumming, and of course all the stuff he did in the jazz sort of bands, which I went to see and occasionally joined in with once or twice. And that was quite an important part of his world. He wasn't fixated on the Rolling Stones, believe me. Charlie liked it. He had his own life very much,
Yeah, that's the impression I got. I saw a quote where he was like, I'm just a drummer. You can replace me. Mick and Keith, those are the guys that when they're done, it's done.
He was being modest, but the Stones was very much based on Charlie and Bill. Bill Wyman and Charlie Hart, they made those records as good as they are.
What song is Mick going to make a cameo on?
It's Anyone Seen My Heart. I mean, that record was cut before the lockdown.
Sure.
But then the lockdown came along, and I did all the vocals myself, apart from he's the only other person on vocals, which I shot it out to him when he was in Italy, and he managed to get it together. So he's the only other person singing with me.
And can I tell you what songs I like on the new album? I love that Love's Horn, and I also love the one about the roosters and the fox and the hen house. It's just a fun bopping record, man. I really like that.
Well, I recorded those cockles. They're my wife. She's got a bunch of chickens and that, and I had to creep down in the early morning in the spring to record those. And John Porter, who mixed the album for me, had a lot of fun putting them on the track.
Yeah, it seems like you've got quite the, how do I word this, like outdoor experience, whether it be like in the fields with your dogs or some sheep or, driving out through the country. Is that like your main place and you're kind of out of town, or do you like to kind of back away and retreat on weekends, or what's your living status, I guess?
No, I got one place in Somerset in the west of England, sort of south of Bristol, and I got a few acres. So I got a few sheep and cats and dogs and grandchildren running around and all that jazz.
I've always wondered, when you deal with somebody as famous as Mick Jagger and you got somebody as close as his brother, how do you stay in touch with him? I would imagine throughout his life, he's got to change his number. If that leaks out or gets into the wrong hands and the fans get it, it's got to be like, oh man, now I got to delete my number and start all over again, or is that not an issue?
No, it doesn't happen. I mean, yeah, I'm insistent that if I communicate, he has to answer. If he doesn't answer me and that sort of stuff, I can take him to task. Because you can't have a relationship with someone if they, obviously people are busy, but, you can answer, SMS, yeah, I'm doing fine, how are you doing, speak to you soon, And so you got to keep the pathways open. Otherwise, if you don't, then it's just forget it. It's just families have to keep communicating. That's important.
Was he specifically in your mind, Mick, for the kind of the bluesy song "Hey Brother" on the new album?
Yeah, he said, "Who's that about then?"
Chris Jagger, both are out now, Talking to Myself, and also Mixing Up the Medicine. Hey, Chris, thanks for the phone call today, man. Enjoy your stay. And if you run into anybody else from Boise, make sure you tell them to listen to the Eagle.
Okay, will do.